Welcome to Discover the Terror. I'm Maximilian Schmidt, and this is Herbert, your ghoulish host for this evening. Tonight's guests are the producing minds behind Cinesthesia Factory, a new production services company taking the industry by storm. First, we have Gonzales, the producer behind genre films like Shift and more recently Stakeout. Joining him is Lipp, producer of Disfigura, starring Doug Jones, and Plankenstein, a killer surf movie. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
So you guys are partners in crime. So I love to kind of hear the story of how you guys met and why you decided to create Cinesthesia.
I can sort of start. Well, the origin was actually myself and Eric Kochmer. So there are four of us in Cinesthesia Factory, and Whit Spurgeon. We all had, been making movies for the longest time, and we were tired of working for other people. And they had been working at another company that just was not going in the direction they wanted to. And I was tired of making TV for other people. So we just started to put this thing together. And as we had just formed the papers, we ended up on a movie together. Eric and I were producing a movie called Red Camellia, and G came in to also produce on it. And I didn't know G at all, but G fucking is the best guy in the trenches. No question.
Yeah. Red Camellia was fun. That was a thriller we did, Kentucky. It is getting ready to come out to the festival circuit, so keep an eye out for that. It has Carly Shaken is leading as Douglas Smith, right, Nate? Did I get those names right? Yeah.
So what was it about G, kind of like seeing that glimmer in someone else to realize like, oh, I want to work with you for more projects? Because obviously we meet so many people in this industry. So many people come and go, but sometimes when you meet that one other individual to, help start a company with, that's got to be something special right there. So was there something you saw in each other?
Well, since I'm the one who came in later, I think what a lot of people in the industry, like when they're starting out, are looking for other people to help make their dreams come true. And I think once you do it long enough, like most of the people who are still working in the industry, especially after the strikes and everything, they're still here through attrition. And so, I think we all just appreciated how we didn't need anything from each other, but we saw how we could add to each other. Being a solo producer is hard. Being a solo anything, solo writer without a director, solo director writer without a DP to help you out. It's like, it didn't come from like a place of like wanting to take each other's work. It's just like we liked what we were all doing and wanted to help each other out in making it. So.
And what was the first project you guys collaborated on? Was it the one you mentioned earlier, or was there something else? I guess for Cinesthesia itself.
Would it have been the camera was like the first? Did we do something before that?
The camera was the first time, but we'll just talk about this one because we just came off it and it was a great experience doing it. This one wasn't a horror movie, but it was still a genre film, a Christmas movie. We just ended up shooting in Tampa, and that had all Eric, me, Nate, all there. Whit doing payroll from home base here in LA, but it was really fun.
Yeah, that was just a magical experience. This is the wrong podcast to talk about it, but it was a romantic film. We shot it at the Clearwater Aquarium, Marine Aquarium, and it was filled with dolphins and all kinds of animals. Literally every morning I was walking in. Again, this is the wrong podcast to say this, but every morning I walked in for a month. Our office was at the aquarium, so I walked in through this room with a giant window into a dolphin habitat, and there are dolphins swimming around, light beaming through there. I'd walk past a stingray exhibit, and they actually like to be touched, so I'd literally high-five a stingray on my way in. And then
let's give them a knife and it can fit the podcast. We'll just arm the dolphins and get the sequel ready.
Honestly, we would love to make a horror film there. We talked to the people. That's always what I'm like trying to figure out is like, what's the horror way into this? And I talked to the animal people about doing that. Maybe the board isn't into that, but the animal people would love to have like killer something. the aquarium.
I mean, I saw Nate. I saw you did Plankenstein. What was that film like? Because I like looked at trailers and stuff, and it looks bonkers. It's got like that Monty Python horror slapstick vibe to it.
Yes. So that's let me just go back like and explain what our company does. So we do services on short form. So G, Eric, I, Whit, we've been kind of doing that for the longest time. So, and I've always focused on horror because that's what I love the most. And we come on as like executive producers on the projects. So we have an insurance policy. We do payroll and do like virtual production services. And sometimes we're very active in the project. Like we did a project called The Camera that was like a pretty decent budgeted short film set in Manzanar about a family that gets interned at a Japanese American internment camp. So it's set in the 70s. We had to build a barracks because the real place doesn't exist anymore. That was such a great challenge. And that was probably the first like really big project that G and I worked on together where I was like, G is one of my people. But okay, so lots of other things we do, we'll take movies all the way to distribution. And Plankenstein was a movie that actually Eric brought in. We didn't have anything to do with physical production. We just saw it. And I was like, this movie's fucking hilarious. I mean, it's literally about a killer surfboard. So the plot, I don't want to give away too much, but it's about a woman who doesn't realize her. So it was all shot on the, I cannot remember the island. All shot on one Hawaiian island. Dick Diamond is the director. Really funny, really nice guy. You can watch it on Tubi right now. But it's basically about a woman who doesn't realize that she is of royal heritage on that island, and this Frankenstein of a surfboard is like murdering people to protect her. And it is as campy as hell. And it was kind of one of those things where like the movie didn't get that many festivals, and I saw something in it that I think a lot of people didn't see. And same thing with Eric, same thing with G. We just thought like this is something that needs to get out there. So we found a distribution, got it out there, and it's been actually doing pretty well.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned like you saw something that maybe somebody else didn't really see in the film. So I want to ask both of you guys as producers, what is it that you look for in a project that you're like, I want to commit my time to this and hope that it gets out in front of many audience members as possible? Because again, you probably read so many scripts, you probably have so many people pitching you stuff. So what does it take to make it for y'all?
I can jump in here. I know this for certain. Is there some part of this that I have never seen before? There has to be something special. Like to me, it's, I guess I've seen movies with dolphins or does this, especially with like horror films, like there are just so many that get made. If I'm reading a script and I'm like, have I never seen this fight scene before? Have I never seen this special effect before? Does this fit in a genre that hasn't been serviced in a long time? Or a subgenre in horror, which, there's got to be something really, really special about it where I feel like the audience is going to walk away and talk about it when they're done. That ending scene where everybody dies was incredible, or the creature is like something I've never seen before. That's it. Like to stand out in this world, that's everything.
To piggyback off that, there are like some projects that were in development, or they reached out and was sitting there for 2 years, but that's how we remembered it once we found the right partner or person who's looking for that kind of thing, is that there's something special or memorable about it that could be like, remember that one script with this, instead of just that generic horror movie or drama. If it has that one scene like we latch onto, we'll always remember it. At least
it all comes down to, do I want to see that movie? if I can imagine, I always do that when I'm reading a script, is like I'm listening or I'm reading it and I'm like, I picture it, watching it with other people, and I'm like, people are going to laugh at this scene. People are going to be grossed out about this scene. Like, is that experience going to be fun for me when it's done? Then yes, that's the movie I want to make.
Is there a scene in both y'all's canon that's kind of used as a litmus test of you're like, oh, this is the type of energy I want to see? Like, for example, The Thing, right? When that creature first emerged from the stomach and ate the guy's hands, I was like, wow, that was the biggest left field situation I could have ever expected for that movie when I first watched it. So like that kind of energy is like what I kind of look for when I try to create a project. So for you guys have that one scene or maybe one or two that you always go like, damn, something like that.
I mean, I always like movie openings, and I love like a good intro to a character. Um, like Ghostbusters is always the one that's stuck in my head. It's like there's a great intro to all four of those characters each time you meet them, and you know exactly who they are and where they fit in this world. Like when Bill Murray, you first meet him, he's like doing a. Is that the second one? No, the second one he's in the game show. Um, oh, the first one he's doing a test with a student, and you're like, this guy's a little bit of a scammer, and you see like Vankman um, is the guy who's like really serious, and then uh, now I'm forgetting his name. Harold Ramis. He is Egon, and he's like this really weird scientist, yet he makes a dick joke in the first scene.
That stands out, right? You're just like, it's so out of character. Why would you say that? But now you're always going to remember that.
But he says like, or no, that wasn't his first scene, but he says there's a line where he's like describing, a girl is being interested in his epididymis, which is a dick joke. And I was like, you did a sciencey dick joke. That's so funny to me.
For me, it's the Blade intro scene.
Ooh.
Or in the club, in the nightclub. Now that's oh man. And like I watched it when I was a kid, and also the like, I mean, you see a lot of horror movies do it now too, where they're like mixing like the sexual tension, like X. You know what I mean? Like X did so well because it's like people are so afraid of being cucked, right? And the first guy is killed after Jenna Ortega cucks him. It's like such a, or Babadook, right? Like she's like masturbating, and then the fucking shadow creature comes out. It's like it's such a easy audience manipulation when you start mixing like sexual unease with like horror. But yeah, that Blade intro scene where especially when he spins that fucking katana around the bathroom.
That's such a good example of like a character intro. You've got this like impossibly scary situation where you've got like humans who are not realizing they're just about to all die in like a horrible way, covered in blood, the scariest situation. All of a sudden you realize you're surrounded by murdering vampires. And then this guy comes in with a sword and just chops them up with ease. And you're like, fuck yes, like this is the hero that I want.
Okay, well, what is it's interesting that you mentioned like the sexual tension and the horror. Because I've seen a lot of articles going around that Gen Z necessarily doesn't want to see sex or anything sexual on screen. What is y'all's take on that? Like, is that just the evolution of viewership throughout the time and the zeitgeist, or do you think that's just something very specific now that's going to pass over?
Well, those examples I gave, they weren't graphic. Like X, we don't see crazy nudity. We don't see nudity in Babadook, but it was like all the implied sexual tension. So I think it's like, I mean, honestly, I kind of get it. I don't know if I'm becoming a prude, but like, there's some movies nowadays I'm like, I don't need to see that much titties, dude. Like, let's move on with the story.
It's just like, we all have porn to go watch. So like, I'm not going here for nudity or sexual gratification. I'm going here to escape and experience some other emotions. I mean, my niece says I'm very cringy, but I always say like, we make movies, we watch movies to experience dangerous emotions in a safe space. That's why I love horror movies. I can sort of experience vicariously death and the excitement of being chased and sci-fi creatures and all sorts of other things that I don't want in real life, but I do just like to explore that part of my imagination.
I mean, that's why it's so awesome now. I mean, just seeing with Obsession and Backrooms how that's getting so many people into theaters to share that communal fright. Because again, it's been very iffy with the theater attendance, and I feel like just those box office numbers show like that horror is in, and people want to experience those dangerous emotions. Like, what's y'all's opinion and current take on the film industry right now?
I'll jump in on that. Like horror has been strong. Horror has always been the thing that throughout the pandemic, when box office turned down, horror was always strong. What I think is very special about those movies is that young people were making them. They were showing that young audiences that are on YouTube do want to watch movies, but they want stuff that's created by themselves. They want new ideas. I mean, Backrooms isn't a new idea. That's IP. But I think it's just the voices were relevant to a young audience, and that is exciting to me. That's exciting that a younger generation wants to go see these movies.
I didn't see Backrooms yet, but like Obsession is really well crafted, like in terms of sound design and like the small, judging they do in their coloring and the VFX, like blacking out people's faces at a certain point or like highlighting glimmers or I mean it's all post judge, but it doesn't feel intrusive and it's like it's well crafted. That's why it broke through. Um, and like even the sexual scenes I was talking about, like Challengers, that's a sexual movie without showing nudity. It's the sound design and the frantic editing is what makes it work. It's like uh, creating the sexual tension feeling happens when you have a well crafted movie. Obsession doesn't really do it, but I mean they do a lot of cool, weird things with just how it's made. But yeah.
Is there some sort of fears that you like to see portrayed on screen that kind of give you that catharsis? Like specific stuff that you go see with that one movie and you're like, that is exactly what the anxieties I've been harboring, and now I feel better from just seeing it.
This isn't really answering, but I was thinking a lot the other day of like what's more satisfying, like a movie like Obsession where the first kill comes like more than halfway through the film, or like super like Train to Busan. I want like giant numbers and uh the answer is either. It's just how well you do it. I don't know. It's a good question.
I, I'm kind of with you, G. Like a good movie is a good movie. I like movies of all types. Like I'll watch a drama, um, and there are some movies that that typically I am more of like the I want action from the start and I want kills going all the way through. But then I will see something that I'm like is really slow, is like just not what I thought I would have liked. Like Weapons is a good example where it was like that took a long time to get going, and it held on to that mystery until pretty late. But once you see Aunt Gladys, you're like, I was on fucking board. Like, what a really unique character. Um, and I would say, like, typically that's like, if I had read that, I'm not sure I would have been like super psyched about that, but it's just so well executed. Um, what was the movie? The P.T. Anderson movie, One Battle After Another. I had problems with that script. I don't think that Leonardo DiCaprio's character was the main character, and I think we spent too much time with him. It's still so well directed, and it's still just so entertaining from beginning to end. I didn't mind, but he's like a dopey passive character. What are we doing?
It also showed like the script. We could be wrong on the script level, and that's why part of my answer of like when do I know that this movie has something we haven't seen or is special. It's like the directors really knows what they see. Like you can tell, and it pays off. Because we miss things when we read scripts all the time.
Yeah, director is everything. Like that's, I mean, good point, G. Like, if I have confidence in my director, that's everything, and I will understand. Sometimes when I'm reading a script, this movie may not be for me, and I am not the author of every story that should be told, and I may not understand the audience when I'm reading it. If I'm confident the director knows who they're making it for, what they're making, and why this is special, I'm more open to just saying like, let's go for it. I know this person makes good stuff.
So when you get a script, at least with synesthesia, is there like a lot of writer directors, or are there a lot of just writers approaching you guys, and then you guys kind of like package it and find a director?
We've done both, and we've even had finished productions ready to go, and they just need on the ground producers. So like every scenario we've done a lot of. So I wouldn't say we lean any other way. I would say when it's writers coming to us with scripts, it's a longer journey, and the writer has to be the type of person who understands like if I don't even have a cast attachment, then like this could be a multi-year process to getting money. I mean, right now, like, what I think about the film industry is I think the film industry is fine. It's like there's no more funding in it. People, it's a lot harder to get MGs, and all that means is that what we are making has to be good. And like a lot of the projects we make too are under the $2 million budget mark. If you keep it under 500K, like as long as you have a coherent movie, which is we're not trying to make coherent movies, trying to make good movies, but like if you have a coherent movie over a 10-year span, you'll probably recoup most of the money back if you can just keep getting new licensing fees and deals everywhere else. Like it's if you can, as a first time writer, if you can just make a 200K movie, like, and not worry about losing the money, you'll you can probably figure it out. I don't know if that's too optimistic, but
I think that's fair. Certainly in the horror genre. That's something that's just awesome about horror movies is it's easy to find easy. I never like to use that word, but it's easier to find your audience because there are horror podcasts, there are horror conventions. People like to go see horror movies in the theater more than any other. Um, that's not necessarily the same thing with comedy. It's definitely not the same thing with drama. Um, Maybe action is like a good communal experience, but something special about horror.
that's true. Everything I was saying does not apply to your mumblecore film. This applies to to a genre film, unfortunately. But like to keep going, like there's a director that we worked with. Um, he mostly makes TV movies, but then one of his films he made 10 years ago just found its second life on Netflix and went top 10. You know what I mean? And it's like it was like a 250K movie, and like that, like then that now its life is really going to extend. And so when you keep your budget below 500K, you if you keep selling it and the director is willing to take it on the road, and the movie still has to be good, but if it's great, then it's a different talk. But like that like not to rate movies too much and be like too critical, but that difference between like making a 5 or a 6 on IMDb versus making an 8 or 9 IMDb, it's like if you made an 8 or a 9, it will break through. If you made a 5 or a 6 and you kept the budget really low, in 5-10 years you'll probably like be near broke even like on the cost.
So it's kind of sometimes the long game, like keeping in mind when like a director comes to you guys and like well, you guys make a movie and everything, and maybe initially it doesn't blow up, but there still is that opportunity for it to grow and find its audience over that span, so you can recoup it. Basically, is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, 100%. I think that like you can make a lot of money after it comes out on road shows. I mean, whenever we talk to distributors, I like to still argue for theatrical because they're not going to put it in theaters. So then you can do the legwork and put it in your theaters yourself, market it.
So what is that process like? Because I know Terrifier 2, for example, that kind of like opened the floodgates of just extreme horror movies, unrated, being in theater, and that's still getting butts and seats. And I know that was done independently than like a big distributor coming in and releasing it.
Plankenstein is a great example where we had a distributor, the Horror Collective, who they did all the digital stuff that, quite frankly, like they have better connections to, and they can sort of line that stuff up. They didn't want to do a theatrical, so we just started making phone calls, and it ended up having like a week-long theatrical run um, on the island where it was shot. It played in 3 other theaters in Hawaii, played in LA, played in, and that was just phone calls. And quite frankly, like theaters want movies, especially if it's a one-night gig. Like that's not a big ask, and if you do want to spend the money to do it, it's not asking. You're not spending very much. It's like a couple $100 at some theaters, especially if it's a small theater. Like we had a film we made last year that was a short film, and we were releasing it, or we were getting done with it a little bit too early for Sundance, and we wanted to do the Oscar run. So it cost us nothing to actually play at the Lemley um, in West Hollywood for a week alongside a bunch of other shorts. And that made us Oscar eligible.
Oh, wow.
We did not get nominated.
Hey, even being eligible is like that opportunity, right? No matter like what ilk or type of film it is. It's just having that chance, I guess.
Well, I will say, like, that's something that was an experience that maybe will give people hope that Oscars are pretty legitimate, because we had money for that marketing campaign, and we were in like the Hollywood Reporter as like one of the shorts that has buzz. We had an article in Rolling Stone. Like this, there was a lot of buzz about this. Still didn't make the short list. You cannot buy it. That's something we learned.
So what is y'all's experience with marketing films? Like getting it in front of the audience nowadays? Because I know it's so different with the internet and just doing it through social media than maybe how it was done in the old days, and being more on the independent side as well. There's definitely more of that guerrilla marketing, right? To get your audience kind of in front of the screen.
G, do you want to talk about Shift?
Shift came out on Tubi. I mean, there's a lot of like techniques that distributors will mention, like go with the go on Amazon for paid for about 2 months, build up hype, and then once that like initial buzz of like people who buy the film first, we put it on a ad streamer like Tubi afterwards. So there's like industry know-hows how to like time your releases, but it all still comes down to um, the director or the filmmakers or the actors going out and driving people there. It's not really by Instagram posts. It's going on podcasts like you guys, where you have dedicated horror fans. And honestly, like tens of thousands of people. Again, if you kept your horror movie under 300K, like you'll be surprised, like how much does come from these ad streamers. And if you could do things like get the tax incentive, go to a state where the spend is 200K and then you spend 300K, that the initial Tubi money, like you'll be surprised. And it's really eye-opening how what the state of the film industry, as I've come to understand it now, it's more than ever you have to be sensible on the business plan on how you're putting the money together and how you're going to spend it, and every dollar has to go the farthest it can.
I will say, just to build on that, unfortunately in this world, like actor names, there are very few valuable people. So uh, it does help your distribution, and it does help in some way to have somebody that is recognizable. Um, I will say, like, you mentioned my film Disfigura that had Doug Jones in it. Did Doug Jones get us a minimum guarantee? Did that was a short, but like, did that get the feature started? It did not. Um, did that get us in deadline when we went to play at in horror film festivals? Yes. So it gets you some PR, but like truth is, like it's like Justin Long or David Dastmalchian. There are very few names that are really worth something, or it's the really big names in movies that are worth actual cash money. Most of the time, when you're making horror films, like just make a really good movie. Make sure your actors are good, and it's less important that they're famous.
Wow. So so really is kind of that push and pull of maybe having the name. But I mean that horror genre is having more of a leeway compared to like if you made a straight drama or comedy, then you need that name to even get seen.
I also think like maybe I'm like um projecting too much, but why I love horror movies is because it's hard for me to sit down and like watch a movie and not think about like how did they make this. But like horror, it's so easy to suspend your disbelief, and like that kind of goes in hand with like you don't need a big name actor because in some ways like a recognizable face makes it harder to to suspend your disbelief. Like if I'm watching Zendaya run from a serial killer, it kind of like doesn't hit as hard as somebody you can just project yourself onto.
Yeah, no, totally. That's a really good point. And G, I want to kind of take it back to something you mentioned regarding budget. So what do you think? And I know it is relative based on the script and the concept, but what in your eyes and your experience is like the biggest money suck? I guess when somebody drops a script in your hand and they think it's like, oh, I could do this for like 150K, whatever, and then you really look at it and you're like, okay, that's actually going to be more expensive than you think it is, and that person probably didn't even like consider that factor.
Yeah, I mean,
I have opinions.
I'll let Nate talk about it, but with horror, what stands out immediately is like what are the kill scenes, what are the special effects needed. But Nate, I'll let you go ahead and take that.
All right, I'll try to list off things that are usually like red flags that like most people don't think about, and this is talking to people who are less experienced. SAG. So when you are going to have a SAG movie, especially for 150, you might look at their list of rates, right? It's like 295 or something like that, or 249 or something like that. That's an 8-hour rate. So if you're going to have your actors on there, that's only for 8 hours. You're paying a bunch in overtime, and then on top of that, you're also paying something called fringes, and it's taxes. And I know this is really boring stuff, and everyone is turning off right now, but that will kill you financially. So it's almost impossible to do a SAG movie if you're not doing like 10 days or something like that, or 8 days or something really short. That's the other thing. If you have $150,000 and you want to shoot for 30 days, you're being unrealistic. Unless you are going to make a movie with you and your roommates inside of your apartment, then do that. I mean, that's honestly a great thing. So either be really small or go big and shoot very few days. Gee, what's another like, oh shit moment when you read a script or look at a budget?
Background, right? You have like an auditorium, like you know, do you want to how alive do you want to make it feel? Does it need to be the auditorium? Can it just be a hallway in the school? And like we'll keep talking about because I'm sure every podcast guest you're going to talk to for the next month and a half is only going to be talking about obsession. But there's very little like difficult SFX. Like we have budgeted movies for 1 million and about 400K is either going to like puppetry or like special effects, like the effects warehouse, the team behind it, because that's so much prep too to make sure it looks good. But yeah, on those $1 million features, like we've budgeted out 400K for special effects and all that before. So if you can keep like a really down to earth movie, I think like you can get most budgets to around 500K, unless you're asking to like light the desert fully. You know what I mean? Like understand to like what that budget looks like. And then it goes back to big spaces.
That's a good. If you are working with a really big DP that demands a lot of things, which great DPs do, nighttime exteriors are very expensive because you need a lot of light to fill the space. Um, we did a film last year. I hadn't done this in years. Day for night is an amazing way to save money. If you do it right, it's just a filter and a good colorist that will save you a lot. You can actually see the whole world. So we did I mentioned this earlier, a film set in at Manzanar, which is a Japanese American internment camp. And all of our exteriors we shot in the real place because there were a few buildings that were left. And we kept using Nope as a reference, which is a movie that did day for night in a very much more complicated way than we did. What we liked about that is you can see the space, and especially if you're in a really stark space, um, I think that's worth doing. If you're filming, if you're deep in the desert, I think if I would go back again to another film that we made, I would have rather done that day for night in the desert. Um, I might feel differently if you're like near a house. I do like One Battle After Another. I thought that was like a really well done movie without having a whole lot of big lights. And when somebody says, "I need a Condor, I need a 6K, I need this enormous thing," you don't. That movie didn't. When they were driving in the car to the nuns' place, they didn't light up the whole scene. It was just nighttime, and all you could really see was the car. When they got to the building there, they used just the practical lights from the building. I mean, they probably accentuated that with stuff, but they didn't put on a giant balloon above and light up the whole place. That is nonsense. You don't need big tools to make a good movie. P.T. Anderson doesn't, you don't.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to kind of like leave that comment off. You don't need big tools to make a great movie. You really don't. There's so many examples out there that just defy, oh, I need all the cool gadgets to make my masterpiece, my magnum opus. What do you guys think is like...
That is for you. That is for your ego.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is like the biggest misconception you guys work with regarding like directors coming in with their concepts and stuff? Like, do you guys sometimes have to walk them back and be like, hey, realistically, this is not going to be everything you're initially thinking of. Like, let's kind of like, let's peel the layers back and kind of get to the point of what you're trying to say. Because I assume you guys get these scripts and you're like, okay, concept's great, I really love where it's going, but it's probably a little too expensive. Let's actually discuss this. Like, do you guys have those discussions with these directors, or is it usually just, no, let's pass, this is too expensive or unreasonable?
I mean, we've definitely like gotten budgets that we've looked at from like people who are trying to get their project off the ground, and we see like, Nate mentioned they didn't count. We see that they didn't include fringes, or their catering numbers are all wrong, or just small things like that. It's usually, I mean, it's tough because that's when producers have to be the bad guys. So we try not to get to the point where it's that conversation. It's more of like, do they have a realistic like understanding beforehand? I think it's tough with low budget things, especially if like they haven't made a lot of low budget movies. Because really the indie directing games, it's its own animal, man. Like, you can really like do anything, and so with just an iPhone. And so every time you ask for more, I think like a director just needs to ask themselves like, why?
Just to build on that, you can do anything. It's just, how are you going to tackle that problem? We've gotten free crowds before. We've done pretty big stunts, but it's just like, how are you going to do that? I also say, like, we've pulled off miracles. It's just, how many miracles are you expecting us to pull off?
Right. If like we're flipping a car for under $1,000, then like, sorry that we're going to see the tow truck from that's, got the winch on it pulling from an angle. You're going to have to pick a different angle. And so like, that's where the whole creativity meets budget thing goes. It's, what can I get? And does it fit my vision? If it doesn't, then, and this is the only thing I can get, then how do I change my vision to make that fit then?
That leads to, I think, a funny story. So we're working on Red Camellia, and in the scene, this is like a flashback. A a car rolls off the side of the road. Somebody loses sight of the road and they roll off. And we talked with a stunt person for the stunt coordinator for the longest time, trying to figure out how we're going to do this on budget. Da da da. We figured out that we were going to get our stunt car, and then we would get a car without an engine in it that cost very little. The deal maker and master in chief, negotiated a car that we could just roll off, destroy. We colored that thing, or we painted it to match the other car. And we had this really complicated way that we were going to like pull it on a winch, bring it off the road. And it was like it was going to be tough to make that work. And there were so many questions. And then I'm literally talking to the chief of police of the town that we'd been filming in, who was so helpful. This guy was like number one non-crew person. He was giving us police cars. He was hooking up the town. He had like a water truck. He was like hooking up businesses. Yeah, it was wild. And I'm just telling him all this stuff, and he's like, well, shit, my brother's got a backhoe. I can just bring that thing down here and we can just flip that sumbitch. And that was literally what we did. It was like just cut to put two cameras down on the ground on hi-hats, and then we just took a piece of construction equipment, we shut down the road, and then he just flipped the car with it, and it looked fucking amazing. And that was just like creativity, and also just being open to like new ideas. And that's actually like I would say like a big thing that I've learned when making movies is like there are a lot of people with a lot of good ideas around, and you don't necessarily have to like have solved every problem at every moment. And then just be open to like sometimes like a lot of problems, and especially like the small logistical problems of like, where is this person going to be on set, or like, how am I going to get this extra little thing? A lot of solutions will present themselves, and you just have to be open to that. And that was a perfect example. We had a plan, but when a better plan presented itself, just went for it. We did it.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story. Um, well, as we're kind of wrapping up slowly, I want to ask, do you guys have any big projects coming out that you guys kind of want to talk about and promote and get people excited for?
Go watch Plankenstein right now on Tubi, on Amazon. Amazon, just for y'all, pays better than Tubi, so go watch it on Amazon. And Red Camellia will be out in festivals, so get on our socials, watch that when it gets there. And then our company does a screening series in October called Factory Fest. So we do that twice a year. We're presenting a lot of stuff that we make, and we connect with a lot of filmmakers that we've want to work with or have worked with in the past that we really like their stuff. We have some really interesting stuff. We do a lot of experimental films, do lots of horror films. We kind of are casting a wide net of like just things that we think are really interesting. So please come to that in October.
Watch Shift on Tubi also.
Yes, Shift is a great movie.
Yeah, I saw it at was it LA Film Festival or something like a few years back.
There you go. See, it takes a while from the film festival run to actually being on streamers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know I kind of said we're wrapping up. I'm curious now. What was that process like? Because then I saw it, and then I haven't heard from it since, and then now it's on Tubi.
Yeah, I would say like from camera wrap, really spending like 4 or 5 months in post, and then you go to film festival submissions, and that'll be a whole year for all its runs. You'll sign your deal, distribution deal, about like 2 years in, and then that'll be a couple months. So yeah, it takes like 2.5 years since from camera wrap, I think, till your movie's actually out there. Unless you have an MG and distributor already set to go and you had a thing in place, but yeah.
Yeah, that is a little wild, but like we just finished shooting a movie in Florida. It's already been announced. It's called Christmas in Clearwater. I mean, I'll bet my paycheck that thing is going to be done and ready and to go by Christmas. So sometimes if you can be really efficient, if you can be really good, I do think there's a lot of value in being able to move fast and be good.
Also, if you've made like 100K or a 200K feature, sometimes like forget the film festival circuit and just self-distribute the thing. Get your money back now. So waiting a year or 2 years.
That is something that's interesting that I feel like is changing about movies. I think people are seeing the value of just releasing on social media, especially if you're making $100,000 movie or something even smaller. If you make a $8,000 feature, you might have a better chance at just like self-releasing, doing screenings, doing all sorts of other things that way.
Because just distributors really aren't going to, the local film festivals to pick up movies for distribution. It's always like, you ask your director friends, hey, do you know any sales agents or distributors who are looking for things? And then you send them a screener and they say, cool, here's my deal. Do you want to sign or not? And that it's a pretty fast process if you just want to put things out with the distributor.
Can I give advice to young filmmakers who are looking for a distribution deal?
Perfect, Nate. Because I was going to go into any last minute advice you want to give in general to the audience members. So you can mention that, and if you have something else as well, we'll end it right there because I'm curious.
So self distribution versus finding a distributor or to take your film out. None of us are really great at getting on Tubi and knowing all the deliverables and all that. You need somebody, but you can get an aggregator to do that, and that costs a couple $1,000 at most, maybe 50, maybe $2,500. If you go to a distributor and they don't say they're going to do any marketing, and they don't say they're just going to like offer it up to a bunch of different platforms, and that's all they're going to do, you're probably not going to make much money off of that. That's a red flag for me. If they say like, here is our marketing plan, and if they are open and willing to sort of follow your lead on how you want to market your movie, that's because you should know your audience and you should know how you're building your audience. And especially you as a director, you can take charge of your own marketing. If you're making horror films, you can book yourself on podcasts. I don't want to put his business out there, but you talk to a filmmaker who made like a found footage film. I'll just say it was Frogman, which I thought was really excellent. That's a good movie, but that was done with like self-distribution, and that was made for very little, like sub $100,000, and that made its money back and then some. And that was just by doing podcasts and doing road shows and doing marketing on his own, and he did not need a distributor. And there are just so many distributors that are just trying to take advantage of you, and it is really scary out there.
Are there any other aggregators you can think of? There's Film Hub. Yeah, this is to the first time filmmakers, or you have your 100K, 50K film and don't know how to make money off it. You're probably better going to Film Hub.
But yeah, like fucking theaters want to hear from you if you talk to the right people. Go to indie theaters. Just get the right phone number. It doesn't cost them much to just let you screen for one night. And if it does well, if you bring all your friends, they might allow you to do more. Our business partner, Eric, he got a deal for his movie Death of Snow White. They got in with AMC, I believe. They started releasing in Seattle, where the director is from, and they just got a lot of people to come out. The first few, they did spend money on marketing on Facebook ads, but then it got released all throughout the country, and that was because there was a plan. So make sure you have a plan, and don't we're not living in an industry anymore where, unless you are making something wildly big where there's a studio involved, if you're an indie movie and you get some distributor, you're still in charge. And don't look at these people who are distributing 50 titles a year they're not going to solve your problem. You're going to be the reason why your movie is marketed well.
Awesome. I love that. Any last minute advice, general advice, not just distribution, before we call it a day?
There's no shame in a side gig. Like, just take care of yourself. I don't want you to go into a wild amount of debt to make a movie, because it's hard to make money back on your movies. So take care of yourself, especially if you have $50,000 to make a movie and you need $2,000 to live on. That $2,000 is not going to make your movie that much better. Just take that as enough money to survive on, and do the best you can with the rest of the $48,000 you have to make.
Awesome. Nate, G, I really appreciate you coming on the show with Herbert and I. It was a great discussion, very, very in-depth about the process, which I know fellow filmmakers are going to want to know the secrets behind the curtain. So I appreciate y'all's time.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, man.
No, thank you. Yes, good meeting you, Herbert.
Herbert, really insightful.